Let's chat about the new Star Wars figure reveals from the May Hasbro Pulse Star Wars Fanstream.
Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it.
Hello there. Thanks for visiting Varykino. I'm Kristy.
And I'm Matt. The Hasbro Pulse Star Wars Fanstream for May 2025 was held earlier today. New products were revealed across the Vintage Collection, Black Series and Black Series role-playing lines, covering a total of 10 different products, quite a few more figures because some of them were multi-packs. The live stream was broken down into product categories, and for each of these categories they started with a bit of a recap of the Star Wars Celebration Japan Hasbro reveals. The first category was the Vintage Collection line, hosted by Jing from Marketing and Emily from Design. And as mentioned, they did run through all of the Vintage Collection characters and figures revealed at Star Wars Celebration Japan. Now, we won't go over all of those figures again. It wasn't that long ago that we had a bit of a chat about our reaction to those on this channel. But what was interesting is that they did bring out some of the new products to actually see in person rather than just the promo photography shots. Because the Celebration Japan livestream was quite a different format, they weren't able to do this last month. So it's fun to actually see the bantha on the table in full scale being handled by the two presenters.
While the panel at Celebration showed some pretty good photography of the bantha creature in particular, it was really nice to see this demonstrated on a video, particularly the mouth articulation, showing how easily that was to open and close. That was really nice, and seeing, of course, the fur on video as well.
So moving on to the first Vintage Collection reveal, this was a multi-pack set, a special action figure set entitled Stormtroopers of the Empire, which features one trooper character per original trilogy movie. It will be available in summer of 2025, Northern Hemisphere summer, so winter for us down here in New Zealand. Pre-order will be available on Hasbro Pulse from May the 4th. This special action figure set has a Snowtrooper Commander, a Sandtrooper, and a Scout Trooper. Let's take a look at them closer, each in turn. The Sandtrooper uses an existing Stormtrooper body with a new abdomen and a new left shin and knee, both accurately representing the differences between Sandtroopers and Stormtroopers as seen in A New Hope. He includes new accessories and deco, including a T-21 blaster rifle, an E-11 blaster rifle, and a DLT-19 heavy blaster rifle. The trooper is cast in off-white plastic and has some sand weathering all over his front armor in particular.
I really like the assortment of accessories with this Sandtrooper figure, and I particularly like the detail on his backpack. Looks really nice, some really nice detail there. I think this one looks really cool with so many different options. Of course, being a 3-pack, a little bit harder to army build, but technically not really impossible because all 3 figures are ones that you could army build with.
The Snowtrooper Commander for The Empire Strikes Back follows on from the very well received standard Snowtrooper figure released not too long ago. The differences between this and the standard Snowtrooper include a rank badge on his chest armor, variations in the helmet, his shoulder bells are inverted compared to the standard Snowtrooper, and there are some subtle forearm and boot differences. Additionally, this character does not have a backpack, screen accurate in that regard. He comes with an E-11 blaster rifle.
I always have a soft spot for figures with soft goods, and this one includes a soft goods skirt, so we do get some good flexibility in that lower body section there. I like the detail on this one. Of course, him being a leader with that special designation and differences in the armor means that this figure won't be quite as army builder ready as the other 2 figures in the pack, but of course, Snowtroopers look awesome en masse. I'm sure lots of us want to build an epic Hoth battle diorama, so I'm sure we could fit a few of these guys into our display.
And lastly, finishing out this set of 3 troopers is the Scout Trooper from Return of the Jedi. Predominantly based on the existing Scout Trooper sculpt, but he does come with barbell hips, so his lower torso, his pelvis, and his upper legs in particular are new tooling. He comes with 2 weapons, his EC-17 holdout blaster and an E-11 blaster rifle.
The Hasbro team specifically mentioned the new barbell hips, making it easier to sit on a speeder bike vehicle, and it's a little bit of a shame that Hasbro didn't make this change when releasing the recent speeder bike vehicles. We got 2 recent releases, one for Return of the Jedi and one for The Mandalorian. Of course, it would have been nice to have this upgrade for the Biker Scout characters included with those vehicles, but at least we have one now, so you can kind of swap this figure in for the one that came with those those vehicles and have him stand somewhere else on your indoor display.
All up, I think this is a really attractive action figure set. I personally want to get my hands on it. It may be a little bit challenging. As far as we can tell, it's going to be a Hasbro Pulse only purchasable item. So we're going to have to do a little bit of work to get that shipped to us down here in New Zealand. Next up in the Vintage Collection lineup is VC231, a refresh of the 2024 released Stormtrooper. He will be available in fall of 2025, Northern Hemisphere fall. A mainline release with pre-orders going up on Hasbro Pulse on May the 4th. This is a re-release of the A New Hope Stormtrooper, so he comes with a holster on his left hip and an E11 blaster rifle. Compared to that 2024 release, wherein the cardback replicated the original vintage action figure cardback art, this one has new alternate cardback art. Nice clear pictures of Stormtroopers on this cardback.
I'm a Star Wars collector that firmly believes that Stormtrooper figures should always be available. Every collector needs more than one, so I'm glad to see that this popular character is getting a reissue with that slight tweak of having a holster on the other side. Of course, in A New Hope, there are lots of Stormtroopers, so I'm hoping to army build this one as well. And I kind of like the fact that we've got a little bit of a variation on the card back as well. For those collectors that like to keep things mint on card, this one distinguishes itself from previous releases with that fun new art.
Personally, I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with this one. We did open up one of the A New Hope 2024 Stormtrooper releases, but we did keep one of those carded as well because it looks so good on its card back. Similarly with this one, I do like the card back. I'm kind of tempted, to be honest, to get one of these to keep on the card.
There's just something about the iconic Star Wars Stormtrooper. I think they always look great in box and en masse in loose action figure displays, so we're hoping to pick up more than one of this one.
The next figure to discuss is one that is quite anticipated and not too surprising, to be honest. VC373, all new tooling of Obi-Wan Kenobi, coming out in fall of this year. Here's a mainline release, as is that Stormtrooper, both available for pre-order from May the 4th. Obi-Wan comes on a classic cardback replicating the original vintage release of this character. He has two lightsabers, one with a lit blade, one that is just a hilt, removable soft goods cloak, as well as a soft goods skirt. And I have to say, a real standout feature of this new figure is that really nice new sculpt for his face.
Of course, with Hasbro doing their Return to Tatooine campaign and really pushing figures to fit in the HasLab Mos Eisley Cantina, this one was not a surprise, but he looks fantastic. I love the likeness, really close to Alec Guinness here, and I love the elements of soft goods, particularly on the lower robes, so that he can really move and pose. And of course, I love the soft goods Jedi robe as well. Everything about this one looks fantastic. I'm going to want a couple because, of course, he appears not just in the Mos Eisley Cantina, but lots of other A New Hope scenes as well. This one, I think, might be the definitive version for this particular likeness of Old Ben. Of course, I'll need to get the figure in hand to make that determination. By the promotional images, he looks fantastic. And of course, with that replica old original Kenner card back, this might be a contender for another figure to buy more than one of to keep carded with that really cool Kenner card back with the yellow saber and one to open to add into scenes.
Now, the next product described is another multi-pack, the Cantina Adventure Set, which will be available in the summer of 2025. This is a playset with 4 characters, 4 Cantina aliens in it, that is inspired by the Cantina Adventure Set that was released as an exclusive product back in the late 70s. This playset originally and the current release features a cardboard backdrop and base plate and 4 Cantina aliens. In this instance, they've gone to great lengths to try and replicate the colour schemes of those original vintage releases, which is kind of fun. It's not going to be to everyone's taste. It doesn't quite fit in perfectly with the upcoming Mos Eisley playsets, including the HasLab Cantina playset, but in its own right, it's going to be a lot of fun with a lot of nostalgic value for collectors that were collecting back in the vintage era. So what this set has, as well as the cardboard backdrop and base plate, is 4 carded vintage figures. Hammerhead, aka Momor Nadon, Greedo, Walrus Man aka Ponda Baba, and Snaggletooth aka Zutton. Each of these new releases is based on the most recent sculpt for those characters, so not new sculpts, but the paint jobs replicate the earlier vintage versions. So for Hammerhead, who is VC376, he is based on a recent Momon Nadon figure, VC362, comes with an E11 blaster rifle. He stands out because he has a distinct teal-coloured costume all the way from the top to the bottom, just one block colour. Very fun and obviously highly reminiscent of the very odd colour interpretation in the vintage era. The new release of Greedo is number VC378. He comes with his DT12 heavy blaster pistol. He is based on the upcoming HasLab version of Greedo, without the waistcoat that comes with this version, and he is painted in his green jumpsuit. Walrus Man is VC377. This is based on the Ponda Baba that has been recently re-released, but is actually a re-release of VC70. He comes with this SE14C blaster pistol. He has his really interesting orange and blue decoed outfit with his strong green head and hands. He does come with the alternate hands that the other versions of Ponda Baba come with. Finally, in a nod to the famous and now quite rare blue Snaggletooth, we have a Snaggletooth VC379 based on the Zutton figure VC189, but repainted to have a blue jumpsuit with silver shoes. He comes with a DL44 blaster pistol. Now, 3 out of the 4 characters come on card backs that are pretty close approximations of their vintage releases. That's Hammerhead, Greedo and Walrus Man, each with their original names notably. But the blue version of the Snaggletooth, in contrast to the shorter red version of the Snaggletooth, was famously never released on a card back back in the vintage era. So for this release of Blue Snaggletooth, we have a card back that is based on the red Snaggletooth, but with his jacket coloured blue to match the actual figure. Small bit of trivia, the card art on this vintage card back, both this current release and the original vintage release, isn't actually Zutton Snaggletooth from A New Hope. It is in fact Zutmore from the Star Wars Holiday Special.
At first I was a little bit surprised to see Hasbro revealing a cardboard Cantina playset, considering that a lot of collectors have a very expensive HasLab Cantina playset on pre-order. But the more I look at this, the more fun it gets. I'm a little bit conflicted on this when it comes to the backing cards. I am a sucker for fun backing card art, especially when it is a nod to the original Kenner action figure line as well. So this is one of those ones where I feel a bit conflicted because I want 2. I want all 4 of these figures with their cool retro card backs, but I also want the figures out of their packaging. I did see some chatter online talking about whether this would have fit a little bit better in the retro collection line with those bright colors and the fun cardboard playset. But of course, with so much focus on that HasLab Cantina playset, we're going to need a lot of just denizens to fill out this really cool playset. So even with the bright colors, I think that these will fit really well in with sort of the galactic denizens in all sorts of different scenes. You can always do with more random Star Wars aliens to just flesh out scenes, and I like that kind of blend between modern articulation and tooling with the fun retro nostalgic colors of the original Kenner figures.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of interesting talking points here. Although they aren't true to their representation in A New Hope, many of these interpretations of these Cantina creatures have been canonized in modern animated series such as Star Wars Rebels, where we have seen background creatures wearing similar outfits to these. But even without that, I can fully appreciate the attractiveness of this set. I'm a big fan of the vintage Kenner aliens. I've got them all obviously in a vintage Cantina playset, so they are strongly nostalgic for me. Funko did a similar thing not too long ago where they released versions of these Cantina creatures but with vintage inspired paint jobs for their outfits as well. So again, even though this is going to be a Hasbro Pulse release, which may be a little tricky for us to get our hands on, I'm quite keen to try and chase this one down. And I guess we'll have to be working out whether or not we're going to open these or keep these carded a little bit down the line.
With many of Hasbro's recent playsets, we get a large plastic playset that can connect together with multiples to create a large diorama and one unique carded figure packaged with it. So if you want to buy multiples, you end up with a lot of diorama and just the one figure. This one, on the other hand, is a cardboard playset and 4 figures. So I feel less worried about buying multiples because you're getting 4 figures each time and you're not really paying too much for the not so necessary double up of the playset. I get the feeling that some collectors might be flicking their doubles of the cardboard playset onto secondary reselling sites for other fans that perhaps want this to go with their retro collection figures.
Now just rounding out the vintage collection section of the presentation, The crew did show an updated version of that Return to Tatooine poster that included this new unexpected Cantina adventure set as an insert in the top right hand corner. The presentation moved on to the Black Series at this point. We're going to cover 5 different products, a total of 6 figures. This presentation was hosted by Tom from Sculpting and Brandon from Marketing. Again, they recapped the Celebration Japan reveals, and as with the TVC banter that we saw in the Vintage Collection line, we had a few of these new reveals on hand as actual figures, so it was really nice to see the new sculpts for Chewbacca and Han Solo in person in particular.
It was really nice to see the Hasbro team showing off the upcoming Black Series Han Solo and Chewbacca from A New Hope, and I have to say, their in-hand demonstration of Han Solo, particularly the face sculpt, looked better in this video than it did in the promotional photography. Maybe it was bad lighting, I don't know, but at least I'm a little bit more happier about this figure because he looked good in the video, and I love the poses that they got these 2 figures to create, that iconic sort of Han Solo shooting with his hand out and Chewbacca with his bowcaster raised quite high. I'm really excited to get these 2, and of course they had them alongside the recently released Princess Leia and farm boy Luke Skywalker to really sort of round out a nice display of A New Hope heroes.
Yeah, that posing of Han Solo and Chewbacca together, it's almost a diorama in its own right, and that really sells these 2 together. The first new product discussed in the Black Series line was a Rogue One: A Star Wars Story Trooper Builder Pack, a 2-pack featuring the SWTOR and the Death Trooper. This will be available in summer of 2025. Pre-order will be available on Hasbro Pulse from May the 4th. Just a note, as we run through some of the slides from the presentation, there was an error in some of these slides where these characters were attributed as coming in Ahsoka packaging. They do come in Rogue One: A Star Wars Story packaging. The SWTOR comes with an E11 blaster pistol, and the Death Trooper, which comes with a number of accessories including a flak jacket and removable pauldron, comes with an E11D blaster carbine. That Death Trooper in particular is quite interesting. All of his additional tactical gear can be removed, so as a standard Death Trooper, so you can have 2 different versions there, making this quite a good opportunity for army building.
This is a fun re-release 2-pack from Hasbro, of course from Rogue One, that movie tying in very closely to the Andor Disney Plus series, which is currently airing, so it feels quite on topic at the moment. Of course, I'd love to see more figures from the Andor series dropping right about now, but I get that Hasbro probably has to wait a while until that series has fully finished airing, so it's fun to get something that feels Andor adjacent with these Rogue One era troopers. I personally don't own the older versions of these figures, so I'm very happy to see them being re-released. Just gotta find them here in New Zealand.
This Trooper Builder Pack will be available for pre-order on Hasbro Pulse from May the 4th. As I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit difficult for us to get product directly from Hasbro Pulse, but it is quite an attractive little 2-pack. We will be trying to, but we are a little bit disappointed that this won't see mainline or even fan channel release. Moving along to the next reveal, a Sandtrooper from A New Hope, pun intended. This character, number 12 in the New Hope line, will be available in the Northern Hemisphere fall. Pre-orders available from May the 4th. He is a mainline release. This figure is based on the new Stormtrooper body, but he has a number of different modifications to distinguish him from a standard Stormtrooper, including the newly sculpted abdomen plate and left leg. He has a new belt with ammo pouches attached. And this figure comes with an E11 blaster rifle as well as the RT-97C heavy blaster rifle.
Another rare instance of the same character being released in the 3.75-inch and 6-inch figure lines at the same time. Of course, the Sandtrooper for the Vintage Collection was in a 3-pack, whereas this one is single-boxed, but it's good to see these classic Star Wars Trooper characters getting regular releases, because of course you always need more troopers for your dioramas.
There was a bit of a cheer from the virtual crowd when we moved on to Revenge of the Sith product at this point. Clone Lieutenant Galle will be number 3 in the Revenge of the Sith line, available in fall of 2025, pre-order also from May the 4th, a mainline release for this character. Now, Clone Lieutenant Galle from the 327th Battalion, the team introduced him alongside the existing recent releases of Cody and Bakar, 2 other named clone troopers. Clone Lieutenant Galle features 2 pistols and a rifle, the DC-15 blaster carbine and 2 DC-17 blaster pistols. He comes on the new Clone Trooper 3.0 body, but also has additional new belt with holsters, a soft goods skirt, and again, much to the cheers from the virtual crowd, a new removable helmet with Clone Trooper head sculpt underneath.
It was kind of interesting to see the team release a episode 3 character in the standard Black Series packaging, but I'm quite happy about that, as the retro episode 3 lava packaging has been quite hard to find here in New Zealand, because of course they are retailer exclusives in other countries. So I'm happy to see an episode 3 figure getting the standard packaging treatment here. The detail of this figure looks amazing. I love the accessories. That new sculpting looks fantastic. I'm really hoping to find this one. He looks great.
Yeah, we should have a bit more luck finding this one compared to those Hasbro Pulse releases. And even though he is a clone lieutenant, if that pauldron is easy to remove, we should be able to use him as a 327th Battalion clone trooper as well. So that was a Revenge of the Sith character released in standard packaging, but we did have a couple more releases in the Revenge of the Sith anniversary line. We've had 5 releases of the Revenge of the Sith anniversary packaging as Walmart exclusives in the US. This presentation gave us 2 more, bringing that total out to 7. As with other releases in this anniversary line, the figures are not newly tooled figures, they are repaints or re-releases on the whole. This is the case for Ayla Secura, although one additional new feature for her is that motion blur lightsaber blade that comes as an alternative lightsaber blade that can plug into her hilt.
This was a surprising release, though of course, as you mentioned, a lot of the anniversary packaged figures have been re-releases, and Ayla Secura of course has already been released. She is currently available from many retailers still. I do own the older one, so I would only be picking this one up for the nostalgic anniversary packaging. She wasn't high on my list as a featured character from episode 3. She does have a memorable scene, but not many minutes in the film. There are more characters that I think would be more fitting for this episode 3 anniversary line, but of course, if you don't have the original figure, this one is a fun one with neat packaging and of course that extra motion blade. Even if you don't necessarily use it for Ayla, you can plug it into other Black Series lightsabers for characters that use a blue blade, of course.
And the 7th figure in the Revenge of the Sith anniversary line will be an IG-100 Magna Guard. This character has previously been released in this scale in Clone Wars colouring, a paler white colour. The Revenge of the Sith version comes with a steely blue metallic finish. Yes, this is a redeco of a previous Clone Wars release. He comes with, as with the previous release, 2 Electro Stars. This time around he has battle damaged soft goods.
For me personally, the Magna Guard makes more sense to be released on the episode 3 anniversary card back compared to Ayla Secura, but this is a character that I want to army build, and this anniversary packaging just looks so pretty. I really don't like opening these ones if I can help it. Also, I love the soft goods cloak, but that burn, that weathering damage to the cloak makes this one a little bit more unusual to army build. Of course, battle damage on droids wouldn't appear identically across multiples there, so it's a little bit unfortunate. I do love it when they battle damage soft goods though. It always looks really cool. For this one, as much as I want to army build it, I think I'm just going to get the one to keep in its packaging. With fingers crossed, they'll re-release this one later down the line in standard packaging at a cheaper price point, easier to find, so I can army build this one.
So the Magna Guard was the final figure discussed in this presentation, and it did bring up the stark point that we still have not had confirmation of Revenge of the Sith versions of Anakin Skywalker or Obi-Wan Kenobi on any sort of packaging yet, although we are pretty confident that they will be coming down the line.
I know I wasn't alone in hoping that Hasbro would re-release some really main episode 3 characters in this anniversary card back style, especially Anakin and Obi-Wan, but also Mace Windu, Chancellor Palpatine, and Yoda. I thought all of those characters were pretty high potential candidates for this line. I understand that in the States this is a Walmart exclusive line and they might not have wanted to lock away really iconic popular characters behind a retailer exclusive, but it just seems such a missed opportunity with this fantastic nostalgic packaging. With the recent re-release of Revenge of the Sith in cinemas making headlines everywhere for just the popularity and how much additional box office take it made, it's really seemed like such a missed opportunity for Hasbro not to cash in with this epic nostalgia we are seeing at the moment. I wanted to collect all of these episode 3 figures on the nostalgic episode 3 retro packaging, and I'm just surprised that we've just got mostly a line of reissued figures. It seems like such a wasted opportunity because so many collectors would want to be buying new figures in this packaging and buying multiples to open up as well. Instead, we get a lot of reissued reissued figures, which means if you already own them, you might not necessarily want to be paying more or tracking down this nostalgic packaging.
Yes, we personally very much enjoyed rewatching Revenge of the Sith in the theatres last weekend, and we're fairly confident that if they did have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker figures on any sort of packaging, new tools in the new boxes, or anniversary packaging of those characters one way or another, if they were available right now to coincide with that theatrical release, I'm sure they would have just screamed off the shelf, so definitely a bit of a missed opportunity there.
I know that Hasbro could still surprise us with some more reveals later on this month, maybe even on the actual date of the episode 3 20th anniversary, and some fans think that maybe they are holding off some of the big gun reveals for San Diego Comic-Con later on this year as well, but May 4th seems like the pinnacle of Star Wars fandom for a lot of fans and collectors, including myself. This is the day where we think that Hasbro really comes out with the biggest fun announcements. And I have to say, I don't want to be negative, but a lot of these figure reveals from both the Vintage Collection and Black Series were reissues. So if you are a long-time collector, you probably already own quite a lot of these figures, and we're really hoping for something new and exciting.
Don't get us wrong, we're very keen on getting most of these figures into our collection and on display with a good couple of favourites amongst the lineup. That new release of Obi-Wan Kenobi looks fantastic. He's going to look really nice alongside some of our other Mos Eisley patrons and inhabitants. And although a little bit quirky and probably of limited appeal rather than wide general appeal, that Cantina adventure set I think is personally a lot of fun.
Yes, of course, as long-time Star Wars collectors, we enjoy all of these new product reveals because we remember the time where we really did fear that there would just be no more Star Wars figures. When the prequels ended, it really wasn't really known where Star Wars collecting was going to go. So of course, all new Star Wars figures are exciting to us. We collect them even if we've already got older versions. We love the new tweaks that they make to these figures, but I know that for newer collectors, they want the new exciting things, and there just was a lot of the same ones that we've already had in recent years in this particular release, which seems just a missed opportunity. If this was any other live stream, that would have been completely fine, but this was the May 4th live stream, the ones where you really hit the home runs, and I just feel like that was just a little bit of a missed opportunity. Fingers crossed that they will have something really cool for us to announce hopefully very soon.
The final product came to us via Jing from marketing and Chris, the design manager. In the Black Series Force FX lightsaber line, we've got an Ezra Bridger Force FX Elite lightsaber coming out in summer of 2025. Pre-order available on May the 4th. Via Hasbro Pulse. This will also be available via Amazon and fan channels.
The box art for this lightsaber depicts Ezra Bridger as we see him in the Ahsoka live action series. So this of course is his lightsaber from that series, not his combination lightsaber blaster pistol that we see in the Rebels animated series. So of course that makes a little bit more sense, this being a sort of live action interpretations of lightsabers. And of course this is not surprising since we already have a Sabine Wren lightsaber from the Ahsoka series, so this one will be a fine addition to any lightsaber collection.
Now the Ezra Bridger lightsaber features everything we would expect to see from a Force FX Elite lightsaber, of course. The electronic sound and lighting effects, that really cool display stand that can be used when you remove the removable lightsaber blade.
And this lightsaber also comes with a swappable blade plug to fill in the emitter when you remove the blade to match the on-screen prop. I really like those details.
So as you mentioned, we've already got the Sabine lightsaber from the Ahsoka live action series, not to mention the Balin skull being imminent, and we're hoping for a Shin Hati. We're going to have quite a few lightsabers from the Ahsoka series. They'll make a very nice display together. So Ezra's lightsaber rounded out the Hasbro Fanstream for May 2025. Let us know down below what products you're particularly interested in getting your hands on or looking out for. Thanks for hanging out with us today as we chatted about the exciting Star Wars figure reveals from the May 2025 Hasbro Pulse Fanstream.
We hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you enjoy hanging out for a chat about Star Wars figures, we also discussed the Hasbro presentation from Celebration Japan. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as the whole Star Wars collectibles playlist. This is the way.